in the wake of this report, and it was a stunning report and a stunning announcement of a deal with China to curb emissions. And again, the actual amounts that are going to be curbed here, will they be enough to reverse climate change in and of themselves? No. And it also has a lot to do with whether or not this is executed properly. But we have overcome one of the biggest, at least rhetorical, and I would say even beyond symbolic, I mean, really functioning political problems that we've had in moving forward, which was the arguments by Republicans that there's no point, even if we do stipulate that climate change exists and that it's man-made, even though God would never let that to happen. Even if we stipulate that, because we're heathens, like the rest of you secularists. Even if we were to stipulate that, there's no point in us doing anything because we can't get China on board. And now China is on board. So here is Jake Tapper talking to the Environment and Public Works Committee chairperson, incoming. I want to repeat that. The Environment and Public Works Committee chair, Jim Inhofe, who has not only said that climate change is a hoax, but literally has said it is incredibly arrogant of us, humans, to assume that we could impact the climate in any way, for better or for worse, when God is out there who, and I'm adding this part, but that's almost word for word, I guess presumably pulling the levers, right? I mean, either God has it all on some type of like automation system where the lights come on, the lights go off, we stay warm, we stay cold, or he's up there, and I do mean he, working the levers. Maybe there's a lever system or a switch situation or a button situation. I'm not exactly sure.
God's more of a manual type of guy, so I think that's probably it.
I mean, we don't know. It's possible God has so many arms that it's like he could be doing all that and then, making dinner at the same time. Nevertheless, here is James Inhofe on with Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, listen carefully to the question that Jake Tapper asks, and then by the end, see if Inhofe has answered it or even come close to answering it.
One of the most outspoken critics of the deal, you just heard him in the piece right there, Senator Jim Inhofe, Republican from Oklahoma, the soon-to-be chair of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, and he joins me now. Senator Inhofe, thanks so much for joining us. You say you're against this plan because you think China is getting off too easy and because you simply don't believe China will do enough to reduce its carbon footprint. But is that really your issue with the deal? I thought you didn't think carbon emissions were a problem.
Well, no, I don't think so. In fact, the science has totally changed since 2001. Back then, everything was global warming and we're all going to die and all that. And then as we realized, Jake, what the cost was going to be. The cost would be the largest tax increase in the history of America, $300 to $400 billion every year. And you got to keep in mind, you remember when Lisa Jackson was the director of the EPA, appointed by Obama. And I asked her the question on the record, live on TV. I said, if we pass any of this cap and trade stuff, either by regulation or by legislation, will that have the effect of reducing CO2 emissions? Her answer was, no, it wouldn't, because this is not where the problem is. It's in China, it's in India, it's in Mexico. You can carry that argument further, Jake, and say that as we would reduce ours and chase our manufacturing base to China where they have no regulations, it would have the effect of increasing, not decreasing, CO2.
Okay, well, I take your point, but without...
I take your point? What was the original question was, you say that China's getting off easy, that China won't do enough, but does that mean you think that climate change is real? Oh, and then I just keep talking about everything that I've ever stated or has ever happened in regard to climate change and regulation. I'm going to throw in China. in the end, I'm going to make a point that basically says, yeah, this deal is good because if China has to lower its rate of spewing emissions, and we do too, then they can't grow their industry, soaking up our industry. But you'll just accept that, won't you, Jake? Yeah, I get your point.
When he was talking about how the science community has changed their mind or somewhat about carbon emissions, is it just me, or did he go ahead and cite as proof the cost of something, like the cost?
Right.
Like
The science has changed since 2001 when we found out that it was going to be a hidden tax increase.
That's some great climate science there.
Yes. Unbelievable.